Well, I want to welcome everyone to this edition of Conversations on Church Innovation. I'm Tim Nations from Leadership Network, and with me today is the gathering pastor from Houston's First Baptist Church, Stephen Smith. And Stephen and his team were a part of our multi-site central support innovation lab that we had last year. And today we're going to talk about multi-site and some of the things that they've been learning and doing over the past few years. And so Stephen, welcome. Thank you for being with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tim. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So, Stephen, why don't you tell us a little bit about Houston's First and tell us about your role as gathering pastor?
Yeah, absolutely. The church is 175 years old, so that's the big kind of context that we're dealing with as an age of this kind of congregation. And then I originally came as worship pastor to Houston's First 6 years ago, and since then have been changed. The title has been changed to gathering pastor, which really means I coach 4 teams within the church. I coach the music team, the multi-site team, the marketing, and then also the media or the production side of things. And so those are the 4 teams that I'm responsible for during the week. Having a great time doing it. Love my job, love our teams. It's awesome. And are learning a lot when it comes to multi-site.
Yeah, so our conversation is going to focus primarily on multi-site. Why don't you give the folks a little additional background and tell them about your multi-site model?
Yeah, we really started the multi-site journey about 3 years ago, and we based our model on 4 major thoughts. We came to it with a rationale with our people and said, look, we believe that multi-site, when you boil it down, is really about 4 things for our church. First of all, and I've got some notes here, I want to read it specifically. It says, multi-site is about extending ministry to reach the lost. So if multi-site goes outside the zone of missions, we don't want to do multi-site like that. Second, multi-site is focused on neighborhoods, so it's high contextualization type of model that we've got. And then the third thing is it's about creating, not cloning. It's not about exporting everything that we would do or have and all the research that we have at Loop. It's not about exporting all of that. It's about being really careful in what we want to put into a context. And then the fourth is it really empowers the campus pastor. We believe in our campus pastors. The campus pastors do all the hiring for their sites. So the word autonomous is maybe associated with this. We like to say this person is empowered and resourced by the sending campus to do what they need to do. So it's a great model. We have about an 80-20 speaking thing. We have, in other words, our pastors on video 80% of the time, 20% it would be the campus pastor kind of in high context, addressing felt needs of the congregation. So we've got that, and we have today we have 4 sites, and that includes our the sending campus. So our original campus, sending campus, and then three multi-sites. So we have the Loop, we have Cypress, Sienna, and Downtown are kind of our groups that we're working in. So it's awesome.
So as you think about the path that you guys have been on the last 3 years in multi-site, what are some of the reasons that you've taken the steps you have? What are some of the steps and maybe even some of the missteps that you've taken along the way?
How much time do you have on the missteps part? That's the question. Let me start with the positives, because that's a great place to trying to really kind of forecast where and how growth would happen at our church. We wanted to be ready for the Lord to do anything. We believe that He is ready and standing by to bless, and so we wanted to be fully prepared for growth. So we charted out this idea. We said we want to look at 2 big words. We want to look at how can we be more efficient in our church, and then how can we extend ministry. So there were two things that we came back to: the efficiency and the extension. And you'll hear me talk about that a bunch. They either fit in the extension bucket or they fit in the efficiency bucket. So those are two things that we talked about. So multi-site, when it came to that, was an amazingly efficient way to do extension. So we have, it's not that there are options for us that we could go and pick. We have 13 acres on our sending campus. So that kind of limited us to the amount of cars, honestly, that we could gather and the amount of people that we could gather to the site. And so we're like, Lord, if you bless, when you bless, then what are we going to do? So in other words, the multi-site allowed us to be efficiently extend, our ministries. So we've got to that was a driving part of the kind of the motivation of where are we going to put all the people. And so that was awesome. Okay, now the negative part, the mistakes part, are that we underestimated the value of clear, articulate DNA. We underestimated the value of giving people time to really catch the vision of what multi-site is. And then we absolutely did not take into account the value of central support when we started out with multi-site. Multi-site for us, we thought it would be addition. Multi-site is calculus. Multi-site is trig. It's higher math than we thought. And so our entire organization now cascades differently because of multi-site. So if we would have done things differently, we would have kind of gotten the cart before the horse and really realized a lot. So a lot of the friction that we've encountered, the turbulence that we've encountered in doing multi-site is literally learning from mistakes. Oh, we could have done this, or we could have said this at the beginning, or we could have done that. So it's been a great learning process in that. But I think that it's certainly helped us get more efficient and helped us extend properly. So it's been really great in that regard.
Well, since you've been living in this model for a little while now, how's it working? How do you guys measure progress and success?
Yeah, we're really pleased with the way that the church has gathered around the concept of being a multi-site church. So that's been the first thing. We get excited when people get excited about the model itself. We had a leadership meeting. We try to have leadership meetings on different campuses. And so when we see those leaders walk onto a campus that they've never been to, they don't attend, and they see this campus for the very first time, and they look around and they, wow, look at all these people. Look at the ministry that they're able to do within the context, whether our campus is in a downtown in a tunnel, or whether it's in the suburbs, or whether it's in the midburbs. You're able to then see the light come on for people to say, oh, this is what multi-site is all about. This is why we're doing this. So that's, I think, the biggest win for us is seeing the buy-in of the people, and then also seeing the way that the people have gathered to the multi-sites and have really received the video teaching has been a big surprise. That's been really effective for us. 5 minutes in, for people who aren't used to video, 5 minutes in, the people really forget they're seeing an image on the screen and really begin to dial into what the speaker is saying. So we found that as a win for us. And then, as I alluded to a second ago, man, our central support services have gotten a lot tighter as a result, and the people, I think, have seen the efficiencies that seeing us being forced to be efficient in the way that we operate across campuses has helped us be a better church, more organized, all that. So we got people that are being baptized, we have lives that are being changed, we've got people that are growing in their faith on our sites. We've got probably about 800 people, 790, I think, is the average people that gather on our multi-site campuses on the weekends. So we're really pleased with that. So,
Stephen, you guys had the idea to launch 2 campuses on Easter, essentially doubling your number of locations.
Yeah.
why did you make that decision, and how did it go?
It went great. We had an amazing year with them. We got to this Easter 14, and we were all really pleased on the Saturday before Easter this year, saying, "Gosh, I'm really glad we're not. I'm glad it's not Easter 13." It was amazing. And the fact that we decided to do it is a funny way to put it. I think the Lord decided for us to teach us some great things in that. Not only did we start 2 campuses, because I think that would be doable, especially if there are people that we're exporting from our church. We decided to do, when we were dumb enough to say, let's do one multi-site where we send out people and we set up trucks and we have 8 trailers and it's awesome and it's in a middle school. Let's also merge with another church and launch that on the exact same day. I'm telling you, it was, guys and girls, it was nightmarish as far as the logistics go. It took us about 6 weeks to recover from that, and to really let the delivery systems, like the video, like the central support, all that stuff, kind of level out. If it weren't for the campus pastors, though, that's, I think, the biggest thing. If it weren't for the quality of our Siena campus pastor, of our Cypress campus pastor, when we did that, executed that plan last year, it wouldn't have worked. We have seen amazing results from those from those campuses, and have since it felt as though we were on a roller coaster, honestly, and we didn't have the last part of the tracks in. So we were going over these hills and all that stuff going, man, I hope the track is going to be there. Well, the Lord came through, the Lord provided. If we had to do that over again, we would probably opt not to do that unless it was really clear from the Lord to say to do that, because it was just incredibly complicated, as you can imagine, not only with the DNA transfer, but with logistics as well. So, man, it's kind of the perfect storm. Would we do it again? Yes, sort of. I don't know. So we'll see.
Well, as you look toward the future, what are some things that you guys are hopeful for, but haven't yet come to be?
I think our 2 big things is we've got to continue. We had an amazing time with the Central Support Lab with Leadership Network, and so we're really pleased with what we learned there. I don't think we can do enough to master Central Support. I think that is a daily thing around our organization that we've got to talk about, that we've got to talk up, that we've got to staff for. I don't think we can ever underestimate the power of good communication and good systems with that. So we want to get better with multi-site in terms of central support and how we're staffing and how we're operating. And then also we're not setting a goal with multi-site to have X amount of campuses within X amount of years. This is something that was really clear to us over the last 2 years, is we really don't want to put a church or campus number out there to as our goal to achieve. What we want to be able to do is say, how can we start? Obviously, how can we start these 2 last Easter, and how can we have our site downtown? How can we maximize and be the most efficient that we can with those 4 in order to add the next 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people? So we don't have another 5 sites on the docket, another 10 sites on the docket by this time. What we're saying is, God, if you bring us the people, we want to be ready with our efficiencies. We want to be ready with the sites that we already have to be able to meet their needs in that. So it's maximization of the sites that we already have, with a hope toward launching more sites, all the time understanding that it's about people, not necessarily how many sites. So
yeah, that's good.
That helps us.
Yeah. We'll have some leaders watching this video who are either thinking about or have just begun their multi-site journey. And so what are some things based on what you guys have learned that you would share with them?
Yeah, we were in a couple of things. We established a multi-site team. There was about 4 or 5 4 or 5 guys and girls in our church that got together and began to really breathe this multi-site concept. They became really our advocates across all of our leadership for the idea of multi-site and all that's the implications of multi-site and how that all bring. And so we got together as almost a think tank, as a task force. We got together and we were able to write really our multi-site signature, which is kind of our document to say, here's how we think about multi-site, here's how we'll carry this out, and then here's how we'll transfer DNA. So we got this group together. That was so effective to be able to have those people in our corner across the lay congregation to really buy in and help engineer. And these are business leaders. These are people who understand and get multi-site in every other facet of business. But now they were able to apply that to the way that church works. Man, that was huge in that. Secondly, massive educational program for our church on site neutrality. That was a big deal and still is a big deal. I told you we kind of underestimated the communication. Now we had we to do it over again, we would be able to go back and say, okay, we're going to communicate better about really what multi-site means for the church. And so this idea of site neutrality is a new way of thinking basically in most congregations. So we got the leadership team together and we feel like we need to print t-shirts that help everybody remind everybody else at the church that says them is us, or them are us or something like that. So they're not talking about, well, this church or this congregation out here, well, this church or this congregation. We're all the part of the same church, all a part of the same congregation. And we think that's catching on faster and faster as the months go by. But I think in our transition period, we would have done even more to educate them on, okay, what does it mean to meet in multiple locations simultaneously? So,
well, kind of sticking with the same vein of learning, what are some books, some conferences, some things that you would recommend to leaders to look into?
I jotted down just a few things here that are super helpful, were super helpful, continue to be super helpful for us. If you're a leader and you are considering the multi-site model, you've got to get your hands on a couple of resources. I'm going to give you a few books, and then I'm also going to talk about a video that you need to watch like today, so you can do that. The first one book that I would recommend really is the handbook for us that started our journey, was Exponential by Dave Ferguson. Just a fantastically influential guy, church, book, conference, the whole thing. So he and his brother are making it happen in Chicago and doing incredible work there. We went and met with them, did a site visit, and we're actually got to know them through Generis and Julie Bullock, so that was really helpful in making that contact. That book really spells out kind of really the vision path for leaders, which is something that we are still in development of. Say, okay, here's how you go from church member to campus pastor, and here's a clear way. It's all back of the napkin stuff. It's an awesome book. And then really another one that goes, it's simultaneous. We were reading these at the same time. It's the Multi-Site Church Revolution. Of course, this is Ligon and Surratt, just classic work on multi-site church. You've got to be well versed in that book. Mark that thing up, dog ear, put it up on your wall. These are great pages in there. And also, it's the next two that I wrote down, 2 churches to study. There are 3 churches to study, actually. The Community Christian, again, I mentioned Dave Ferguson. They've got just a real neat model in Chicago. So really tapping into how they operate and what they do is extremely important. Their team teaching model is fantastic. Their systems are fantastic, and the way that they communicate is fantastic. City Church in Seattle was recommended to us to look at. Judah Smith is their pastor. We went and did a site visit in Seattle, and we were really surprised and pleasantly surprised at the freshness, their approach to multi-site and what they're doing really in the city of Seattle. It's a fantastic experience when we were there on their campus. I think their original sending campus, and then the way that they think and work is awesome. And then if you need systems ninjas for any systems problem, Life Church is the church to study and look at. These guys are they have their black belt in church or something. It's awesome and can help you out, not only resources, but then they will point you in the right direction for resources. So fantastic. And then finally, my favorite, this was one of the tipping points for us when kind of the light bulb came on when we watched this video. And let me set the video up for you just so that you know. This is produced by Gospel Coalition, and it's three big guys. Okay, so it's Mark Dever, James McDonald, and Mark Driscoll. And I call it Steel Cage Multi-Site because in this video, you've got James McDonald and you've got Driscoll. Basically, they essentially just pound Mark Dever, in this video about multi-site and about. It's a great dialogue, great discourse, and it's really I think advanced our thinking on who we were going to be as a church, where we're going to be in the evangelical or the evangelistic rubric of church work, or we're going to be in the ecclesiological rubric of church work. So it really helped us go, okay, multi-site is missions. Let's go for it. It helped me really define the role of campus pastor, but it's also really fun to watch because they get into it. It's nice. So
that's good. Those are good resources.
Yeah.
Well, what's a question that I haven't asked you that you think others might like to hear your answer to?
I think, what do you do after 10 years? I think that's the question that's still out there, and it's being answered by a lot of churches. They've got healthy congregations, but what do you do at the 10-year mark? What do you do in the second generation of multi-site? What our leadership decided to do is address that question at the very beginning. So we drafted a resolution, passed it the first thing out of the gate when we were setting up our multi-site model. It's called this. I want to read it. This resolution from multi-site campuses to become cooperating churches. Basically, it's a path for the individual campuses to become fully autonomous cooperating churches. And what I can either give this to Tim. This is obviously we want to share this, but it gives a 5-year implied mark after the 5th year of incubation. Then you can start your plan to become autonomous at year 10. And so this really helped our people understand that multi-site is actually long-term, long-range church planning as well. And so I think that answers the what next question for us really well. Of course, we don't have any of the churches that are at that maturity yet, but we really feel that that's going to be something exciting for us to examine as we get closer to the 10-year mark with these other churches to see what would happen. So,
good.
Yeah.
Well, before we sign off, anything that you want to plug or promote today?
Plug or promote? Leadership Network. Absolutely. Anything they put out. TimNations.com. You can follow me at multisitesignature.com. That's our website. And HoustonsFirst.org as well if you want to know more about our church and how we're doing that. I have a book coming out later this year, and I'll read the title to you. Here's the brand new title. It's Leading or Losing: 6 Habits That Kill Influence. 6 Habits That Kill Influence. So we're excited about that in the next few months. So
awesome. We'll look forward to that getting released soon. Well, Stephen, thank you so much again for your time today. And I just want to say to anyone watching the video, if you would like more information about multi-site or any of the programs that we have at Leadership Network related to multi-site, feel free to contact me at tim.nations@leadnet.org. Leadership Network is committed to fostering innovation movements that motivate the church to greater impact. And so what I'd like to do is, as you've learned some of what's been happening at Houston's First, some of the ideas that have come out of their learnings, I would challenge you to take those ideas and find ways to move them to impact. Thanks so much.
And do the opposite.